What's up, everybody?
What's up?
We're going to give it just a second. I know some of you have been in the waiting room waiting. Hello, hello. Drop us a comment if you are on and where you are coming in from. So if you have not enabled chat, go ahead and do that so that we can hear from you.
Yes. We want all your comments.
We want to know first, where are
That's
you
right.
joining in from? All right. Okay, guys, we're going to kick off here. We are chatting today. We got a little Katy Perry, All You Need Is Love. But it's actually not
Might not
all
be
you
what
need,
you
right?
think.
It's not all you need. Yay, Jenny Hogue here from Greenville. Yay, awesome. So excited that you guys are on today with us. And we're chatting a little bit on our road to restoration. This is going to be a 4-part series that we bring to you. It just kind of was birthed out of the moment. We were looking at, oh my gosh, our wedding is coming in May. We are getting married again. Some of you that have been journeying with us for a while, you know so much more of the story. Some of you that are just kind of intersecting us at this moment, you're like, what are you talking about, getting married again? Really fast summary, and we'll be laying some things out for you. But Nathan and I have been married for more than 20 years now, but
working on 21.
Yes. And in the midst of that, after about 18 years of marriage, spent about 18 months separated, and divorce papers signed, notarized, our entire life divvied up down to the penny. And then God took what burned to the ground and came down in ashes and has resurrected it in such a beautiful way. And so we are celebrating that in May and getting remarried again. And we're so excited and just humbled, honestly, you guys, just really humbled at what God can do in individuals and in a marriage when two people decide that they're willing to let all the things burn to the ground and for something new and beautiful to reemerge in its place
from the ashes.
Yep. And be willing to let go of normal, be willing to break normal so that it gives way to something new. And, you know, we called this when love is not all you need, because I think so many of us come into marriage, we get married, and I don't know where you're at in your journey. And if you want to let us know, drop it in the comments. If you're just joining us, tell us where you're from. Some of you may be brand newly married. Some of you may have been married for a decade plus, like us, working on more than 2. Some of you may be divorced or looking at becoming remarried again. So wherever you're at in your relationship journey, we want to just tell you first and foremost that what we're going to be sharing is not a formula.
For sure.
Relationships are so unique.
Yeah.
They're so intricate. And if anybody tells you they have the exact formula for your relationship, they're lying. We may have some keys. We may have some things we've learned. We're going to pass on some things to you that then you'll have to do the work of wrestling it out in your relationship, because it is, there's just no formula. We've all been through so many different experiences as children.
Yeah.
We didn't realize even just getting married, you know that you marry each other and you bring all your stuff in, right? We hear that phrase, but until you're living it, you don't really get it. And in a marriage, that's what's happening. All of our stuff from our family of origin is colliding. It's colliding in our mindsets, our worldviews, our way of thinking and believing, our way of reacting to each other. It's all learned. It's all stuff that we saw modeled. It's all ways that we grew up believing that this is just how it's done. And so until something is fiery enough and hot enough to disrupt that, we just keep doing normal. We just keep going about our day thinking what we're doing is normal. And so we come into this relationship, we got married, or we met, I was 19.
Yeah.
And we got married really young, 21, 25, had a child before our first anniversary, went on to have 4 kids in 6 years. So in our first 6 years of marriage, we experienced marriage
Parenting.
job change, parenting 4 children, losing a child, burying our number 3 child, all in 6 years, our first 6 years of marriage. So there was a whole lot of fire and a whole lot of curveballs thrown just right out of the gate. And for me, I can speak specifically, and Nathan can speak for himself. Like, you're way out of the camera here, babe. I'm so sorry.
That's
here,
okay.
hold on. Hold, please. Hold, please, as we scoot all of our equipment. Wait, don't go that way. Come this way. Come back. Okay. Yes. Here we go. Oh, scissors. In case you need scissors. Like all these things. Okay. So back to the point is, I think for me, whenever we got married, I had a dream. I had a vision. I had an expectation of what marriage was going to be. And a lot of that was just based off songs I heard, things that I wanted, watching my parents, and maybe seeing some things I liked, seeing a whole lot of things I didn't want or like. So a lot of what I wanted was born out of a fantasy. You know, all you need is love, right? Living on love. What is it? Living on love. We want somebody living.
I don't know.
Okay, we're not going to sing. Okay. All this stuff about just living on love, right?
Living on a prayer. I mean, like most of the time.
You hear phrases like "you complete me." You hear phrases like "we're one unit."
Yeah.
You know, and even
you're my destiny.
Man, that my soulmate. I married my best friend, and let me just say, not that these things aren't good, and some of these things sort
have
of
truth.
have some truth.
Yeah, of course.
But let's pan out for a second. If your view of your marriage was all of those things, drop a comment. Let me know. Wow, you and Michael got married in 1994. That's amazing. You guys might deserve an award today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, you win. That's incredible. But yeah, you kind of adopt this mindset of like, love is what we need. And if we have each other, and you're my best friend, so therefore nothing can go wrong because we're best friends, right? Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, those mindsets kind of creep in and they take over to where we just start doing normal life and we stop looking at what's real.
You don't realize your marriage and your life is a mosaic. It's actually everyone piecing together small little pieces to create your picture, which creates a huge expectation for what you think is going to happen. And this mosaic doesn't align with her mosaic. And because of that, there's fire that happens. There's this collision. You're like, oh, I expected this of you, and you're like, no, I expected
fire or
this.
a hammer. I see
or
this
hammer,
analogy going differently. Like, I don't like your mosaic.
I don't like your mosaic. Let's break it up and put new pieces in. So
yes, and one thing that we do really want you to know is that I think one thing we discovered on this journey, we're going to be unpacking some of it for you, is that so many of us, when marriage began, we stopped becoming. When your marriage began, you might have stopped becoming. And what I mean by that is you fell into this pattern and this way of being because your marriage, there's you, there's him, and there's a dynamic. There is this outside entity. There's this thing you create together. And if you stop becoming the person that you want to be, and who you become is basically what the marriage is, you lose yourself in the midst of it. And so then we start working on the marriage. We got to fix the marriage, i.e. control. We got to control the marriage. We got to make it be something that we need it to be, to tell us it's okay. You're still my best friend. We're going to make it. We're not going to get a divorce, or I'm going to experience more intimacy and connection than I am right now. We start like trying to make the marriage do for us the thing that honestly, it's actually ours to begin to do for ourselves. And so when we get married and we stop becoming, that is like one of the first warning danger signs, is when we start to lose ourselves into the marriage. And in a marriage, we have found that like it is the only place where the percentages don't actually add up. 2 halves equal a whole in most of the world, right? But not in a marriage. This is the only place where 2 halves do not equal a whole. It takes 2 100% to equal a whole. That's the only way it works. And that is not the way.
No.
That's not the way we lived for
you
a
can
really,
live
really
50%.
long time.
I've learned really quick. You can live 50% in a marriage, and you're 50% as a person, And that's where it goes sideways.
And again, here's all these cliches, right? Well, it takes two, and it takes two people. Yes, but that's where we start to like take the pack of our own personal responsibility off and forget, well, it does take two, but it takes two people showing up 100% to then make a healthy whole one marriage. So it's a different math here.
I mean, for me, with Jenny Ray, when we got married, we came both into it 50%, thinking like, oh, okay, yeah, two halves. You complete me. This is it. This is amazing. Expectation. We created the mosaic in our head. Whatever it was, we created what we thought was, well, this is it. And we were riding off in the sunset to live happily ever after. But that's not reality. And for me, she started to take steps. She started to see some things, and I didn't. And I didn't want to. And the truth was because she started to realize, oh, there's more that I'm not developing. There's more that I'm not becoming. I want to become that. And so I'd see from a distance and I'd be like, oh, you just keep going. This is awesome. I'll ride your coattails. I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going, oh, you learned that? Tell me about it. Oh, I learned it too, but I didn't. It wasn't integrated in who I was. I was allowing her to just keep forging forward in life and becoming more. And I was willing to take a back seat and actually in my head, in my mind, even in my heart, realizing like, oh, I'm going to get what she's got if I just listen enough. If I just ask her enough and I go, oh, got it. Perfect. Great. Now that's part of me. And it wasn't.
Yeah. It's kind of the difference.
Results show that.
Yeah. It's like basting your chicken versus marinating it, right? Like information doesn't actually transform us. It's the integration of it that does. It's when we allow God to give us revelation and we sit in it and we let it marinate and then we take action on it. And so part of our dynamic, again, we're going to share some things about our dynamic and they may not have anything to do with yours, but what we hope to do as we share some of these things isn't to say this is how everybody's marriage is. This is not a gender thing. You may be listening and you're a guy and you're like, I'm saying something and you're like, whoa, that's totally me. Nathan may be saying something and you're a female and you're like, oh my gosh, I so resonate with Nathan. That's my pattern.
Let him go first or whatever.
Yeah, this is about just human behavior. We all have patterns. We have ways of showing up. We have reasons we do it. It's for survival. And so our patterns, you might relate with one of our patterns or the other. Let us know what that might be. But as Nathan was saying that, you know, he would have this way of letting me kind of forge the way and consume all this stuff, learn it so that then I could regurgitate it back to him. But my part of that dynamic was I actually let it happen.
Let me tell you the sneakiness. So I'm going to tell you the sneakiness of this. I knew, even subconsciously, I knew that if I started to engage that conversation with her, it would give me time to absolve myself from having to take responsibility. I could continue to just keep just enough. I knew what it would take to keep me comfortable so that she would like, oh yeah, we're in this together. And I would continue to reframe. I would continue to paint this picture of like, oh, this is something. And that's what I continued to perpetuate instead of me just owning myself and growing up to say, I want to grow. No, you're doing this. Thanks for going. I need to do something. Look at me. I wasn't willing to do that yet.
Whew, as you're talking, I'm like, it's like there. I like feel it.
Yeah.
Again, so many of you oh man. Yeah. I'm like,
pain.
Ugh. There's so many dynamics. There were so many things that we did that were so sideways, you guys, and the issues themselves are not the issue. They're not. Like some of you might have been like, ooh, I want to get on these lives because Nathan and Jenny Ray are going to tell us all the dirty dirt. Yeah. Who did what? Who messed up? That's the first thing that people think when you hear that your marriage is struggling. And I think that's such a disservice to you as a person who's listening right now, because I think it's also the very thing that keeps your mouth shut. It's why you don't cry out for help. It's why you don't say you long for more, because as a culture, even in some of our faith-based cultures, the immediate thought is, well, who did what? Who messed up? Who sinned? Guys, the issue,
right, wrong, black and white, I'm going to nail you on it. For sure.
And the issue doesn't matter. I mean, we could The issue could be betrayal, broken trust. It could be addictions. It could be disconnection. It could be financial infidelity. Have you ever heard that one? That's a new term. I didn't know until we got into this process, but there was a lot of that going on. It could be over owning and taking responsibility. It could be rescuing and enabling. Hello, raising my hand. Like, it doesn't matter what the actual issue is. What matters is like what we're going to talk about in this whole thing. This whole next few minutes is really the issue. It's not what you have been making it up to be. And really what we want to share with you is, in order for you to begin to move forward on this road to restoration. So we're going to talk next week about restoration more in depth, like what it really is, because I'm just going to give you a sneak peek so that those of you who hear that word and are already triggered and you're like, I'm out, I'm bouncing, I don't want to listen to these, come back next week because we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But for those of you that feel something when you hear the word restoration and you're already like, tapping out, I don't like that word. There was a lot of words for me in this process that were so triggering. And I had to realize it was because of some of the way that I was raised in such a religious culture that just like to slap words on people. Like, well, are you guys wanting to reconcile? And I'm like, what does that even mean? So I look at you, I assess you and how you're going about this process and automatically judge you and assume you don't want reconciliation. Hold up. Wait a second. The God that I know actually told a prophet to go marry a prostitute, kind of out of the box. So I'm pretty certain, Hosea, by the way, if you need to read that book, I'm pretty certain he doesn't do things the way that our systems say he should. So if there is a pull in you and you're longing for more, you want restoration and you're resisting that, lean into the resistance. Lean into like, okay, I need to hear more about what restoration really looks like.
The answer is going to be in it.
It's in it. It's in that wrestling. So stay in the wrestle with it. Don't bounce out, even though it's triggering, because just know we're with you. We get triggered by those words too. Reconciliation, redemption, all these words that just get thrown around that then make you feel like based off your choices, you're not doing it. You don't want it. I don't know if that makes sense. Drop an amen if that makes any sense.
Start looking at what's really happening, what's real for you. You know, and that's what's, I mean, for me and for Jenny Ray and I mean, I wasn't willing to look what was really happening. Like when she's just talking about restoration might trigger you, like that's real for you. So just be honest about it, because there could be something else that could be possible by owning that and seeing that. So that's where the invitation is. And that's what the invitation of even today is. It's just looking at, well, what's real? Like
admit your reality.
Admitting your reality.
Yeah. Step one, I think for both of us was to admit our reality. And as Nathan shared, part of his dynamic was actually resisting reality. And I'm going to let you actually share about that a little bit, because I think it's so powerful that it takes one person. If you are in a relationship right now that you long for more, it maybe the fire is burning. Maybe you're on that end of the spectrum where we were at. It was like crisis mode, fire's burning. It's coming to the ground. Some of you may be like, well, I don't totally resonate with that. I just know that I want more. Some of you may be in this hot moment of your story where you've just discovered some information and you're reeling. Like, again, you may be all over the board of this spectrum, but the admission of your reality actually gives you the power to begin to shift it and to change it. And so the road to restoration, the first thing that had to happen was admitting reality. But I can tell you this, and Nathan's going to share a little bit of his story, but at the beginning of this whole thing, you both won't probably admit your reality. That's part of the reality. That's part of the reality.
You don't want to talk about it.
One of you doesn't want to talk about it. One of you is probably sick and tired of it. Okay, that's part of the reality. Whoever is at the place where they're sick and tired of the dynamic, the way that it is today, begin to admit your reality, even in that. That's part of the admission.
Yeah.
Take it away, Maestro.
So there's two sides to it. I mean, the reality.
Just gonna like be weird. I know. Be weird and make you laugh. Sorry.
When we first got married, like it's been going on for a long time. On the outside, the reality of what I wanted people to see, I'm going to tell you that. What I wanted people to see was I was a pastor for quite a few years. I was not that bad of a person. Occasionally I dip into pornography. Occasionally I would do some small things like, but it's behind the scenes. Oh, my bad. And I'm really a pretty good guy. This is the things that I wanted people to be, I'm okay with. Like, I'm okay with you seeing some of these things. Like, I'm real. I'm in it. Like, I'm a real person. And I would try to convince her all the time. Gaslight, reframing. I was really good at it. And
PhD in it, actually.
I was PhD. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I have my PhD in control. Let's just
that's
say.
right. Yeah, I was joking. But that's what I wanted. The reality is that's what I wanted people to see. And I started to convince myself that's my reality. And it was a lie. And let me tell you really what was going on. We had a lifeless, very disconnected marriage. That was what was really going on. We knew how to hang out. We'd have fun together. We'd have moments, but we didn't have a relationship and connection. I did not know her very well. That's reality. She did not know me really well. And she started to want to, but I was not willing to let her go in there because I didn't want to open up and go, oh, there's nastiness in here, and be honest about that. Like, that's what was reality going on in my head and in my heart. I did not want to see that. The reality was I was settling. The reality was that was my normal on a daily basis was I would wake up in the morning and even unconsciously, I'd be like, okay, how can I get to fun today? Or how can I just numb out? Like, seriously, that's what I literally would do. So I would do things to placate. We had a lot of, even after moving out of ministry as a pastor into businesses, we started to do pretty well. And I was like, okay, I don't have to do as much, or I don't think I have to do as much. And I'm going to, she's super talented. I'm going to let her do these things. Again, this is what was reality. And I was letting her, and it was becoming cold and I was becoming numb. I didn't want to deal with things with the loss of our son. There was a lot that was still buried. And I was okay with being passive. That became my normal. I was okay with not engaging anything hard, even with my kids. And that's what was really sad too. They were suffering to go, oh, my kids started to walk on eggshells around me because they know, like, let's not stir the pot with dad. And they knew how to do that. Like, I taught them how to treat me. And that's what was real. That was the fire that was going on. That was and I was so good. You could say this. I was so good at going, hey, this is what I'm seeing in you. And I wanted to fix you. And I wanted to say, I could manipulate every conversation, and she'd be coming to tell me something that I did wrong. By the end of the conversation, or she was heard about. By the end of the conversation, I would have her apologizing to me because I was that good. And that's sick. I was
poop show.
Yes, it was more than a poop show. It was bad. It was really bad. And it was sad. And I realized, like, I look back and I do want to cry at times because of how much pain and how much disconnect it caused. So when I paint a picture of reality, those are the things that we're inviting you to say, what's really happening for you, where you're at. Why are where you at?
Well, and everything he's describing is kind of reality that was unpacked.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is kind of reel it back to this moment. What is your reality right now? What are you longing for more of that isn't there? What are you experiencing that is creating frustration and disconnect? And you may not have the ultimate clarity on it, but just start putting it out there that, you know what, this is reality, rather than holding on to this fantasy of, but I thought marrying my best friend, I thought being married for 20 years would get me. I thought if I divorced and remarried that it would be different the second time. Whatever that is, fill in the blank. Because
can I give one other
reality
really quick? Just when it came to the point of separation, this is how bad it was.
I like this. I'm getting like all kinds of we didn't talk about what's being shared. So I'm like, okay, what is
the reality was I didn't have any place to go. The reality was I did not have any deep friendships because I was not willing to be known. The reality was I had no place to go, and I was willing to.
When you mean that, like when we separated,
and asked to move out, the reality was I had never faced the fear of actually being alone, that I have to do something on my own. The reality was I was super codependent. I needed somebody for me to be okay. And I didn't care who it was. I was willing to use even Jenny Ray, and even in my kids, which is so sad. But those were the beginnings of my reality of like, oh, something's not right.
Yeah, it was really painful to watch though too. Like what was going on for me was, I came to this place, like admitting reality for me looked like I can't keep doing the same thing and actually expect a different result. So we've done marriage counseling. We have done the devotion books. We've done all these things. We've done conferences. We've done week-long intensives.
We've taught conferences.
We taught a marriage retreat year after year.
Man.
I mean, it's like, okay, we've done all these things. And yet, if I'm honest about my reality, then I'm not okay with where things are. And I went in early 2019, I did a 40-day fast. I felt so compelled. Like it was just like this. Something is so off and I can't put words to it. And I just needed to get clear. And I did this fast. And it was leading up to me going to Israel. And I got to go to Israel with 40 different people, with a mentor of mine. Her name is Christy McClelland, and she teaches the Bible through the Middle Eastern lens. So I was so excited to actually go to Israel, study the Bible, but study it in the cultural context and how she teaches. So as we're there, we just had this epic day, and we're coming off like this mountain. We're going across this. I don't even remember. We went on so many mountains. I'd tell you the name, but I can't remember. Then we went across the Sea of Galilee at sunset in this boat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this day can't get any better. This is so amazing. And I'm just feeling all the feels. And I'm kind of like tapping into what I'm feeling. And it was so interesting. Like this rush of like this feeling that I was like, oh, this is a really familiar feeling. I don't know if I've ever put words to this. And it was like, oh, I'm feeling lonely. How am I feeling lonely? My sister's on this trip, mentor's on this trip. There's 39 other people. I feel this depth, this heavy, heavy loneliness, to where it was like, oh, I feel like I'm about to break under it. And like, it's one of those moments where I feel like I'm about to like, kind of like snot cry, and it's about to come out. And I'm really embarrassed because I don't know what to do. Hold it in, And we get to the shore, and we have the opportunity to get out of the boat and walk into the Sea of Galilee. And no sooner had my ankles hit the water, I have this vision. And this is not normal for me. I don't walk around having visions every day. No. This is not normal. But I'm like hit with this vision. And I see in New York City, I see the Twin Towers, and they are on fire and they are burning. And the towers are coming down. And I immediately hear God say, this is your marriage, and I'm burning it to the ground. And I was like, hold up. Did I hear you right? Like, are you sure this is really what's happening? And I see in this vision, as the towers coming down, one of them, the debris from one was flying from one to the other, and it was making the other come down too. And I don't know if you know that, but that is actually a fact. That the second tower did not come down on its own. It was the debris flying from the one that actually made it come down. And so I'm seeing this vision, it's coming to the ground. I got like more revelation about it later as I sat in it. I hear the Lord just say to me and just give me this assurance that it has to burn to the ground so that I can create something new. But you're going to have to do something new. This was in March of that year. And it took me months of going home and being like, no, I don't. Oh, we got a watch going. I don't want to do something new. I don't want to. You want to get that alarm? It's time, I guess, for something. I don't know. God, what are you saying? I don't want to do something new. I want to just do the devotion books. I want to just keep having the conversations. Part of my dynamic and my pattern was I really deeply believed that if I just talked enough, if I just said it enough, maybe if I package it this way, I'll try to say it this way. And this time it'll land. This time he'll hear me, or he'll hear it. But I had to change what was normal for me too. I had to change my part of the pattern, my part of the dynamic that was actually keeping us just as stuck. Nathan's sharing some things that he was walking through, but what I was walking through was, holy cow, I have been managing our relationship for so long because I am deeply terrified that if I actually say and admit reality and I'm honest about where it's at, I'm going to be the one that brings the whole thing down. Because you see, at this point in our journey, we had businesses, multiple businesses tied together. Our income was dependent, in my mind, on Nathan and Jenny Ray, and just crushing it together, being the poster children, having it together, putting forth that image, having the mask of it's all okay. And I was scared. I was carrying the weight of that responsibility of, if I say it's not, it's going to affect everybody and it's going to affect our finances and we're going to go under. But that day in Israel, God showed me, it's already going under. It's coming down. It's burning to the ground. But wait, what was built in the place of the Twin Towers? Anybody know? Drop it in the comments. The Freedom Tower. The Freedom Tower was erected in its place, and it's a singular tower. And when I went home, one of the first steps of me admitting my reality was how tethered we were, how unhealthily tethered we were, in a way that I did not know where I ended and Nathan began. Nathan had no idea where he ended and I began. If he wasn't okay, I wasn't okay. If Nathan felt like I was emotional, he would jump in and try to manage me and shut my emotions down. Not because he cared about my emotions. It was because
I wasn't okay.
He wasn't okay. So we had all these dynamics going on, but neither one of us were willing at that stage to admit reality.
It was normal
until I came home. And our encouragement for you on this is, it takes one person. It takes one person, because in a marriage, remember I told you already, in a marriage, this is the only place where two halves don't equal a whole. It takes two whole people. So if you are at a place on your journey where you're not whole, girlfriend or boyfriend, go after it.
Yeah.
Go after wholeness for you. Because that is the only way to begin to restore it. That's the only way to begin restoring yourself. It starts with restoration of self before it can ever become restoration of this entity. There's actually 3 relationships in a marriage. We'll talk about this too. It's the two of you, and then it's your marriage relationship. That is a 3rd relationship that's out here. And you're probably going sideways because all of your energy
is focused on this 3rd entity.
It's focused on the 3rd entity. Let's fix the marriage. Let's do the marriage book. Let's pray for our marriage. Let's go to marriage counseling. How about you back it up and do what?
So
do you, right? Do you focus
work on
you.
you. Stay in your lane.
But tell them about that, because when we separated, that was a really hard moment for you. And what did you do? What were some of the antics? The fun.
So here's the thing. So it was so.
What did you do to get it back to normal?
I worked, especially when we first separated, I worked overtime to do what I thought was the normal right thing to do. And I was standing my ground. So I secretly would send her in through Amazon books on the power of a praying wife. And I would drop all these things that I knew. I was like, hey, let's go. Do you want to go? And you want to go for,
this was the best one, you guys. He sent me a book. It was something like that. And I walk into the office. This was when it took about 11 days for him to find a place to go.
To get out.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a brutal. But I walk into the office where he's kind of camped out, and I'm like,
times.
Did you send this to me? And guess what he says?
What?
No.
Wait, I ordered some. I think I just lied.
Oh,
I think
you played the dumb card.
Did I play the dumb card?
Then the confused card. And then, gosh, I think I signed up for an email campaign.
Oh, that's
and they must have just sent a free book. I was lying my
gosh ASS off.
This is where it was like, I am no longer willing to keep my head in the sand and be an ostrich. And so I want you guys to know that this is one other last thing here is for today.
Oh, the Love Dare challenge too, by the way. Like whatever. I was like,
he was signing me up for all of them.
I was like, I'll do it. We'll do it together. Like,
because here's the thing,
you know,
what was normal in our world was you don't talk about divorce. It's not an option. And you sure as heck don't separate if you're trying to work on your marriage.
Yeah.
So what I chose to do,
you go to marriage counseling and all these things.
What I chose to do was new.
It's all new.
And that's why I keep stressing to you all, our relationship and what we chose to do is not a formula, because I am not telling you, hey guys, go separate from your spouse. It'll work. No. That's not what I'm saying. It's what I heard was the next right step for me. My focal point became live led. I have got to hear the next step. And I messed up a whole lot of things, and Nathan messed up. It was just all craziness, but living led, my aim became normal is not what I want anymore. I want new. Normal will always kill new, friend. Normal will kill new. Mm-hmm. So wherever you're at in your journey, the goal is to break normal, disrupt it. And for me, it had to be a massive disruption because I'm married to this former pastor and we're so tethered. We are like the Twin Towers. There was a lot of that going on. And so it had to be something disruptive enough to like, okay, let's wake up. And so Nathan fought for a long time. His fight, his aim. This is what's interesting, you guys, as you're in your own road to restoration, you are fighting for something. Mm-hmm. You're fighting for something, and the results will tell you what you're fighting for. Some of you say, I'm fighting for my marriage. And that's what Nathan would say. I'm fighting for our marriage. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're fighting for, it was a little deeper, a little bit deeper.
I'm fighting for my marriage.
Yeah. I'm fighting, but it wasn't. What he was fighting for was normal. He was fighting for comfort
and safety. To be honest, like that safety was killing me. So I was fighting. The normal thing for me was like, I want to be safe. I want us to be safe. But really reality was I want to be safe. And that safety, that fight for that safety was killing me. It was killing my marriage. It was killing my relationships with my children. It was killing it all because that was my focus and aim.
Normal will always kill new. There is so much new that wants to happen in you and in your marriage, but the new can't even begin in your marriage until it starts here. And so when the day that we separated, I told Nathan, I have no idea what you're going to do with this time, but I know what I'm going to do with it. I am going after health and wholeness for myself. So I want this to be something that you really hear. Some of you are in this place of, I'm done. I want to be done. I want out. I get it. And I hear you. And when I hear that phrase from people, I actually want you to really explore if that's where you're at, the I'm done. What are you done with? Truly. This is where you're going to admit your reality. What are you done with? Culturally, when we say that, what we mean is, I'm done with you. That's what we mean. For me, I said, I'm done. Not with you. I'm done with the dynamic. And
what's been created.
I don't even know what the dynamic is. Mm-hmm. That's why I need to pull back enough to look at it, look at me. I don't know what's going on here. I just know there's something, and I know there's a lot of something here because it came to the place where my normal, I did not like myself. When I laid my head down on my pillow at night, I would cry myself to sleep, not just because our marriage wasn't doing well. I was not doing well. I was overreacting. I was jumping in and managing and controlling like a crazy woman. Why was I doing that? Because I also was fighting for normal. Mm-hmm. What I wanted was my normal, the dream. No. Don't keep doing that. I've got to make you be the marriage I want you to, this dream relationship, the best friend. Wake up. Like I had my own dynamic and my own part of all of that. And so when you say I'm done, what are you actually done with? And I want to encourage you that if it's done with a person, take a step back from that for just a second and go, what about the dynamic am I actually done with? And what am I contributing into that dynamic? What can I actually own today? And what's real for me? Because I don't know actually what's going to happen here. Yeah. We're going to kind of leave you with this, that when you admit your reality, it's scary. It's terrifying. because you don't actually know the outcome. If you begin to admit that there's things that you can take some steps on, if you begin to admit, okay, this thing's burning to the ground, or okay, this thing is kind of lifeless, or whatever that is, fill in the blank of where your reality is, it can feel scary because you don't know today what the outcome's going to be. And we actually can't tell you what the outcome's going to be. I'm sorry. Like if you joined in for these lives and in 4 weeks, you're hoping that we can actually tell you
what's going to happen.
We can't. But what we can tell you is if you as an individual are willing to show up for you and start doing you, start really reclaiming yourself, start doing new things for you. So what that could look like is if you're always jumping in, and for me, like, part of that dynamic was I was willing to feed him all the stuff I was learning because I wanted him to grow. I never was like, I just accept you like where you're committed to be today. And there's a whole bunch there, but there's a lot there. But whatever that dynamic is that you're doing, do something new. If you tend to react in anger today, hold your tongue, try something new, because it starts with you changing your dance steps, not with the other person, not with you both, just you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, it created for me in that process, it created an invitation for me. Jenny Ray became such a love letter for me in her going forward to look at reality. She became so much more than I could have ever dreamed. It was super painful. That was reality, super painful. But it also invited me to new possibilities. Jenny Ray's steps to just do the non-normal thing was an invitation for me. And again, this is why we don't know the outcome, because if you take that step, we don't know what that other person's going to do, but you know what you can do and what you can become. And that's what's really important. And that's what God's looking for, is someone to go, okay, I'm willing to go first. I'm willing to look at reality. I'm willing to step, and maybe I could become a possibility for someone else that I really love, or I could be an invitation in what I'm doing. I don't know. And you can't control that, and you can't manipulate that. You don't want to, but you can become more of who you really are designed to be.
Amen. And it was an invitation for me too. So don't think it was just like, I'm doing this thing to invite you to something. I was doing this thing to invite myself to something new, because I had to let go of, I really don't know what you're going to do, but I know I can't live another day in my skin this way. And it was on that journey for me that if you've been a part of any of my do it stuff, whatever it takes, life stuff, you know that is where I discovered my addiction, that I was addicted to doing, that this is how I numbed myself. When I couldn't control our marriage and I couldn't do this, I would go crush it in business because it gave me a hit. And I felt this high off of being productive, and I felt powerful there because I felt so weak here. And so it was just as much an invitation to myself to start growing. I had to stop all those patterns for myself as well. So we love you guys, and we are excited to be able to journey with you for the next few weeks as we lead up to our wedding in May on our son Hosea's 16th Heaven Day. It's coming. His birthday is actually in April 9th. And so we'll be celebrating that as a family this Saturday, right?
Yep.
And we look back at our journey and see that so much of that loss is we came into marriage, right? We kind of full circle back to the beginning of this talk with you guys. We came into marriage, we come into marriage, all of us, with family of origin stuff. And if you've been married for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, there's something that's going to interrupt your life, whether it's the loss of a parent, a dog.
You have a way.
Like
you have a normal way.
Yep.
And that's what we want you to begin to look at. It's just begin to look at, what's the normal process that I do? What's the normal pattern that I do? What's the look at that reality, because then it could start to invite you to something different. It could begin to expose something that's like, oh, do I want to touch that?
And if you're hearing us and what's going through your brain is, but I didn't do anything wrong, he or she did.
You need to look at that.
That's your normal. How's that one working for you?
That's right.
How's that working for you? It's probably not. So yeah, there's a lot that we can continue sharing on, but we are so grateful you guys took
Super
some
honored.
time out of your day today. So good to see you guys, and we are excited to be here. Same time, same place next week. You'll get
Yes.
a new link for the next one, and we'll be in touch.
Come join us again.
Yes. Talk to you guys
Good to see
soon.
you, everybody.
DM us. I'm still in Facebook jail, so DM this guy
DM
on Facebook.
me.
Find me on
We'll get it.
Instagram
We'll
or
make it happen.
message me. I don't even know. Can you message on YouTube?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Find us.
Instagram. I'm
Okay.
here.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.